Hey, my name is Wes Cochrane. I'm a team member over at Intentional Leader, a place where we help leaders take the guesswork out of self-leadership, fight a reactionary lifestyle, accelerate their personal growth, and achieve their God-given potential at home, at work, and in their communities. I am honored to be a part of your PTP group today, and I'm super thankful to Ms. Laura Kime for including Intentional Leader in the mix of PTP speakers and for allowing me to be here via video to present to you guys. Today we're talking about overcoming adversity and setback. And my goal for you, well, very practically, I'm going to give you my three golden rules to overcoming adversity and setbacks. But my big meta goal is to encourage you. I want to encourage you, and I want to give you practical things that you can use today to start not just overcoming adversity and setbacks that you're facing now, but to really fortify yourselves against future adversity and setback. Because, I mean, it's a fact of life. We're gonna face adversity and setback. And I'm probably, if I were in that room with you guys, I'd be looking at a group of folks that are familiar with what it means to suffer or what it means to face adversity. And you guys have had to overcome a lot already in your short 2 decades. My goal is to help amplify your ability to do that going forward because it's going to serve you well. So for my note takers, here's where we're going. Number 1, golden rule number 1, have a vision. Golden rule number 2, level up. Golden rule number 3, win the war in your mind. So when I think about a vision, I think about a why and a what. The why is like that existential why, that reason that keeps you going, the real fundamental reason for you to keep going. Folks, for me, I'm a Christian, so I believe that Jesus, has me in this world for a reason, that God's got a plan for my life. And that drives me. That drives me to bring Him glory, and it drives me to enjoy the life He's given me. And I know there's purpose to it. This idea is best summed up, I think, by Viktor Frankl. He is a Holocaust survivor. He's the author of the book Man's Search for Meaning and other books. He was a brilliant psychiatrist, an Austrian psychiatrist who was imprisoned in a concentration camp, a Nazi death camp during World War II. He lost his pregnant wife. He lost his mother and father and his siblings and many friends to death at concentration camps. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he's got a famous quote in that book. He says, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. And there's a great story, and just a quick trigger warning. I'm going to talk about suicide. There's a great story in there. You can imagine the despair that these men that he was with faced on a daily basis. Just the privation, the starvation, the coldness, the shock of being ripped from your families and everything you knew, and just the lack of dignity and the depressing conditions. And men fell into despair and would be drawn to commit suicide to just end it. And Frankl writes about one of the only real ways they could prevent this was for him and his comrades to rally around these men that had kind of just lost hope, and to remind them of their why. In some cases, Frankl writes about reminding a man who's on the brink of just despair and was considering suicide, reminding him that he had a son who had made it out of Germany and Austria and was in a foreign country and was safe, but was waiting for him and needed him. So that was that purpose that kind of, flipped him from despair into resolve. Another man was in a prior life before being in the concentration camp, was a scientist who was doing incredible research that nobody else was doing. And Frankl and his peers there in the camp reminded that man on the brink of despair, you have this unique opportunity to help society and to do this research that no one else is going to do if you're not around. And so that idea of a why can be very, very powerful in casting a vision of one's future and really like pulling somebody through difficult situations. And so I'd start with that, but for you guys, what you might be even more interested in the immediate future is having a plan. It's the why and it's a plan, the why and the what. Practically, this means having Like really thinking about a 10-year plan for your life. At your age, that's a very appropriate interval of time. It's a decade. So if you're 15, 16, 17, 18, where would you be at age 25 or 28? You think about where you want to be and who you want to be. Like allow yourself to go there. And I know that could be hard for some of you. Maybe you're helping out around the home because your mom and dad are both working, or you have a single parent that you're living with and you got siblings. Like maybe life is not easy and you don't feel like it allows you to even think past tomorrow. I want to encourage you though to do that. And I know it's going to be hard in some cases, but do that. Think about what your dreams or your goals or your aspirations are and allow that to cast a picture of the future. Like what could life look like? What could you be doing? What problems could you be solving? Where could you be living and who could you be? And then reverse engineer those steps you need to take to get there. I want to give you a couple stories. I was really amazed at this one soldier I served with when I'm in the Army, and I used to be stationed at the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And there was a soldier I served with who had graduated high school, and his plan was to join the Army and do one tour of duty, one enlistment contract, and earn the opportunity to go to college. And so here's a guy who was incredibly talented from a young age, joined the Army, went to basic training, boot camp, became an infantryman, went to the 101st Airborne Division, worked his way up, got promoted to E5 sergeant, led a team, and trained them, 3 other guys, trained them to deploy to Afghanistan. He went to really hard schools in the Army, not academic schools, but training schools, things like Ranger School and Airborne School, and he got all this leadership experience. He deployed to Afghanistan, was a combat veteran, tremendous leadership experience, saved money, got some college knocked out, but then he left the Army and he used the GI Bill that he'd earned. You can Google that. It's a way for your Army service to earn you the right to go to college for free. And he went to college and got a degree in political science. And he's always been interested in working in government or working on political campaigns. And so by his early to mid 20s, he had executed his vision. So his vision pulled him along, and it kind of gave him a taste of what the future could be like, and he kind of nurtured that vision in his mind. For me, really simply, I knew that my parents didn't have a lot of money to pay for college, and so I was trying to figure out a way to do that. And I also had folks in my family that had served in the Army, and my dad had gone to West Point, so West Point, the military academy in New York, was a real opportunity for me, and so I knew that I needed to prepare to be eligible. So that meant getting good at running distance, and so I did cross country to prepare for that. It meant really focusing on my schoolwork, so I really focused on schoolwork to prepare to have the grades that I would need to get into that college. And so it gave me something to work toward, and that pulled me along. And so even on my bad days in high school, I had a goal that I was working toward. And that's the power of having a vision, having a plan. Now, what is the point of time management? I always thought time management was just, hey, professionals manage their time. They have a calendar, they have a checklist, a to-do list. They think about, what they're going to do the next day, and they do it, and they budget their time, and they're productive. But I've learned that time management really is a means to an end. It only makes sense to manage your time if you're managing it for something intentional. If you have a vision that you're working toward, well, then manage your time to get you to that vision. So that was having a vision, the why and the what. And if you find yourself in a position where you don't know what your vision is, and that stresses you out to think about that, I want to encourage you to pay attention to your dreams and your imagination. There's a great quote from an author named Stephen Adai, Dr. Stephen Adai. He wrote a book called Called to Lead, and he says dreams and imagination are seeds from which vision emerges. So for you, what's that thing that you would do all day on a Saturday if you had no time commitments and you had nobody relying on you to do something outside the home? What would you spend your time doing? What's the thing that you can research with no pain and no? It's not a burden to look up. It's not a burden to learn about. What's the thing that your friends are always asking you about or asking you for help with? What's the one thing you just you would describe yourself as an expert in. Maybe those are starting points. Maybe those are starting points for you to figure out, hey, what would inform my goals? Like what would my vision be? But yeah, have a vision, have a why and a what. Number 2, golden rule number 2, level up. Leveling up is something we're all familiar with. I mean, we level up characters in video games. If you've ever played a video game and your character is getting better, like this is a concept that we're familiar with. There's no good reason why we can't think about leveling up in real life. There's 3 ways. There's 3 ways we level up in life as high school students or as adults. And those 3 ways are exercise and physical training, unlocking the power of reading, and finding a mentor. Okay, so let's talk about physical training and exercise. There are insane benefits to working out. And I'm like, the last thing on my mind is what you look like. The benefits to working out, of course, that's a blessing. It's a derivative effect, right, of exercising, is you look like you exercise. But really, man, the benefits are insane. This is why the military is obsessed with physical training, because of these things that I'm about to tell you. So benefit to number 1 for working out. Studies have shown that it literally correlates to resiliency. It builds resilience. Mental, emotional, physical resilience. I won't go into it, but there's 2 2013 studies that the military commissioned that found direct links between physical training and more resilient soldiers and airmen. The science, continuing with the science here, the science really supports the benefits of exercise. There's a great book called Spark, written by a doctor, I think he works at Harvard Medical School, all about the benefits of exercise. His name's Dr. John Rady. Exercise impacts the brain, all right? And so there's 2 areas of the brain that are really important to you and to me, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. And these 2 areas of the brain in particular are heavily impacted by exercise. The hippocampus is the part of the brain responsible for short and long-term memory consolidation, all right? So it handles your short and long-term memory. And not surprisingly, the hippocampus is one of the first parts of the brain that deteriorates with the disease called Alzheimer's. Anyway, the prefrontal cortex is the frontal part of your brain that handles all executive functions, like real decision-making functions, like your reasoning, your planning, your organization, the consequence evaluation that you do, learning from your mistakes, maintaining focus, and your working memory. Things that seem really useful and pertinent to you right now and to me right now. And Rady and other scientists have found that when we exercise, there's this process that's occurring called neurogenesis. Neurogenesis reverses the effects of memory loss and releases a chemical called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And this has been called by Dr. Rady Miracle Grow for the brain. Miracle Grow is the stuff you put on your gardens to grow plants like crazy and have huge tomatoes. But literally BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, this thing that originates in your brain when you exercise, it is a protein that floods your hippocampus and your prefrontal cortex. And I'm going to read here, it causes new brain cells to grow and to log new information. Okay, so literally exercising will make you smarter. It'll help you remember stuff better, and it'll help you make better decisions. All right, who doesn't want that in high school, but especially in the adult world? The last benefit of exercise, and one of the reasons why it's a critical way we level up, is the benefits to our mental health. There's a crazy 1999 Duke Medical School study that took 100 patients suffering from anxiety and depression, and it split them into 3 groups. Group number 1 was, for 16 weeks, they took the drug Zoloft. Zoloft it's been around a long time. It's a very proven drug that reduces anxiety and helps to moderate our anxiety and depression. They took it every day, as prescribed for 16 weeks, and nothing else. Group number 2 of the 100, they exercised for 30 minutes a day, 4 times a week for 16 weeks. Did not take any medication. And group number 3, they exercised and they took Zoloft. At the end of the 16 weeks, the doctors conducting the study measured the average reduction in anxiety as reported by the patients among all the three groups. And they found that the average drop in anxiety was the same across the three groups. And so it's not a knock on Zoloft at all. It's a pro for exercise. You get these crazy benefits of exercise with none of the side effects. So that's exercise, and that's all available just from moving our bodies. That's the first way we level up. So that was number one. Number two, unlock the power of reading. Always be curious. ABC, unlock the power of reading, always be curious. When reading is the cheapest, most effective way to level up our minds that's out there. All right, you don't have to buy books. You can check them out at your school library or go to your county or city or town library. Reading is critical because what it does is it expands your world. It expands your world while you're young and even when you're my age and older. It lets you live, the word is vicariously, through other people's experiences and other people's knowledge. Reading, I think about the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. If you guys have ever seen the Charlie Brown's Christmas, you remember that teeny little kind of rinky-dink, rickety tree that's got like 4 branches and it can hang 1 or 2, maybe 3 ornaments and maybe no lights. Compare that to the Christmas tree in Central Park or Times Square in New York City at Christmas time, where these massive trees have way more branches, way more places to hang ornaments and string lights. And so the reality is, with a big tree, you have more decorations you can hang on them. And I think the same works with reading. When we read and read and read, we expand our framework and we can hang more bits of knowledge and experience and ideas and concepts on our expanded framework. It allows us to solve problems more fluidly in the real world and issue spot things and realize, oh, I've seen this before, I've read about this before. We're less surprised by the world, less surprised by adversity and setback. It's going to be something that you realize, well, it might feel new to you, it's not new to mankind, and you're better situated to deal with it. There's a great quote by General James Mattis. He's a retired Marine general, and he's the former Secretary of Defense for the United States. He said about reading, he said, if you haven't read hundreds of books, you are functionally illiterate, and you will be incompetent, and listen to this, because your personal experiences alone aren't broad enough to sustain you. Now keep in mind, he was writing those words to like military officers. It would be like malpractice for a military officer to get into a theater of war, combat, and have not read the history of where he or she was fighting, what armies and soldiers had done there before, how leaders had overcome adversity there, about the climate, about the political situation, about the economic and governmental situations and what the culture is like. You can imagine, right? Well, you guys can use that same idea and think about, okay, my experiences in high school and even my experiences beyond aren't broad enough to sustain me. I need to like profit from other people's experiences too. And that is one of the benefits, the key benefit of reading. And when I talk about reading, I'm talking about audiobooks, I'm talking about real, like hard copy books, Kindle books, and to a large extent, podcasts too. Those can be helpful, although I think they're fundamentally different from books and audiobooks. Now, the last way we level up is through finding a mentor. Find one or more mentors. With mentors, similar to reading, you get the benefit of them speaking into your life and profiting from their experiences and their knowledge and their wisdom and discernment. And so in a lot of ways, like you pick up a book and learn vicariously, you can do the same through a mentor. It's somebody who's going to walk with you through life and speak into your life and give you, be a sounding board for you and be a guide. Because when you find a mentor, you're not only getting the chance to profit from their experience and their knowledge, and you're not only getting the chance to be kind of counseled and guided by them, you're getting to tap into their network, right? So when you face adversity and setback, or you're facing an unexpected challenge that seemingly derails your plans, you've got another well of network that you can tap into. And that mentor who's gotten to know you and who knows how special you are and unique you are and motivated you are and coachable you are, he or she's going to be able to connect you with somebody in his or her network to help you move through that challenge, whatever it is. So those are the 3 ways we level up. We exercise, we read, and we find a mentor or mentors. The 3rd golden rule of overcoming setback and adversity is to win the war in your mind. Let's go back to Viktor Frankl. I want you to put yourself in his shoes, our concentration camp survivor. Imagine having your family taken from you, your home taken from you, your job taken from you, and your future potentially taken from you, your physical well-being, maybe even your life, the threat of your life being taken from you. The poor conditions, the starvation, the cold weather, the lack of adequate clothing, the lack of hygiene, the lack of medical care, the lack of comfortable sleep. I mean, you're crammed like sardines with other prisoners awaiting whatever their horrible fate is. Just the undignified nature in which they're mistreated. That is the circumstances of the concentration camp. And now let me read you a short quote from Viktor Frankl. He writes this of life in the concentration camps. Quote, "We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." And he goes on and he says briefly here, there were always choices to make. Every day, every hour offered the opportunity to make a decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers which threatened to rob you of your very self, your inner freedom. So he's talking about probably the worst imaginable scenario we could think of, being in a concentration camp where everything's been taken from you and now your life is but a flickering flame. Even there, Frankl observed men, and no doubt there were women too, who did this in the camps were separate, but observed men who walked through the huts, comforting others, encouraging others, giving away their last morsel of bread. I mean, like this is off notes here, y'all, but like this is the definition of servant leadership. There's a great proverb in the Bible that he who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. And there's another scripture in I think Philippians. Let us not look only to our own needs, but also to the needs of others. So this is a perfect example of what leaders do. Leaders don't just look only to their own needs, but also to the needs of others and the interests of others, elevating them above themselves, encouraging and refreshing them. And what are these guys doing walking around in the concentration camps? They're demonstrating leadership by being calm under pressure. In the face of tragedy, these are men that are still choosing to be calm and collected and serving their fellow prisoners. So it's a great little lesson in what like real leadership looks like. But how did they do this? They did this by winning the war in their minds, all right? And this is a powerful thing, and it's the hardest thing I'm going to talk to you about this today. Here's the truth. What consumes your mind controls your life. And this is why our thinking's so vital. But the cool thing about your thought life is it's the one thing you have absolute, entire control over. There's certain things that you don't have control over, right? You don't necessarily have control over a lot of things in your life, but you have absolute, entire, plenary control over your thinking and your thought life. And it's powerful because it represents like a veto authority. You guys have heard of that term in the context of the president. When Congress, when the House passes a bill and it goes to the Senate, and the Senate marks it up and passes it, and it goes back to the House, and they agree on it, and it passes both chambers of Congress, and it goes to the president. The bill, it's on the brink of becoming a law if the president would just sign it. But if the president vetoes that bill, it kills it. And it goes back to Congress, and there's procedures for them to, overcome the presidential veto. But man, That's a lot of power that the president has to just, no, this will not become a law. Well, we have the same veto authority over our minds and over our thoughts. And the reality is the normal pattern of the world is to not challenge one's own thinking or thought patterns. We just accept them. We just it's like a city with no walls, it's like a castle surrounded by no moat, no walls. There's no drawbridge. It's just, come on in. That's the normal pattern of most of us. But I want to give you, I'm borrowing from Craig Groeschel. I want to give you 4 principles that you can apply to change your thinking, because he's got a powerful mantra that is kind of in line with the idea of whatever consumes your mind controls your life. And that is, a lie believed as true will affect your life as if it were true. A lie believed as true will affect your life as if it were true. Okay? And so principle number 1 for winning the war in your mind is the replacement principle. We have to identify the lies that we believe, and we've got to identify the truth that would replace it, and then we got to replace that lie with that truth. Okay, so lies we believe, man. I'm ugly. I can never lose weight. I'm dumb. I'll never be a good student. I'm never going to get into a college. My family doesn't respect me. I'm not loved. Any number of really damaging lies that we believe on a daily basis, hourly basis, we've got to replace with the truth. Principle. What's the lie? What's the truth? Let's replace that lie with the truth, because a lie believed as true will affect our life as if it were true. There's a great story that Groeschel talks about in one of his books. He actually is Groeschel. He's about to go to a party with one of his good friends, and they're literally on the porch about to go into the house party, and his buddy says, everyone in here thinks you're an idiot, right? And then la-di-da, goes into the party, and Groeschel's left there thinking what? This totally took him by surprise. He goes in, and he starts encountering people. He meets the host, and the host is like, oh, hey, cool, I didn't know you were coming. And he instantly interprets that she doesn't want me here. I'm an idiot. She didn't know I was coming because she didn't want me to come. And then he meets, somebody bumps into him. He's like, oh, sorry, man. And he's like, oh, dude, people are just running into me because they don't give a crap about, who I am. They're annoyed by me. And so I'm in their way. And he encounters more people in this party, and it just is horrible. He spends 2 hours there. His buddy comes and gets him at the end, and it's time to go. And Groeschel's so thankful to go because he felt so insecure the whole time and didn't have any fun. And he gets out of the house, and his buddy's like, hey, man, you didn't believe that, did you? I was totally messing with you. I just wanted to see what you would do. And so he totally played him. He played him, but it didn't matter because Groeschel, he assumed that everyone thought he was an idiot. And so that colored his whole time. And it didn't matter that it was a lie. So that's the replacement principle. Principle number 2, the Rewire Principle. All right, so the science actually shows that there's neural pathways in our brains that, become like ruts, like roads that are just traveled frequently. Those are pathways that are formed over days and weeks and months and years of just believing lies. They kind of get embedded like code in our brains. And so we've got to rewire, and we rewire it in a couple ways. One, we use personal declarations. We tell ourselves the truth. I can speak in front of people publicly. I am not afraid of that. And even if I am afraid, I can overcome this fear. I can get better. And in addition to personal declarations, we surround ourselves with friends and classmates that are going to be edifying, that aren't going to keep us down, that are going to speak, truth, but encouragement too into our lives. And I think the third way that we rewire, in addition to the personal declarations of truth and surrounding yourselves with good people, is you be careful about what you read and what you watch and what you listen to on the internet. I mean, the internet's not neutral, y'all. You can't be unimpacted by it. And so the question is, are you positively impacted by the internet, or are you negatively impacted by the internet? There's no I can watch this or listen to that or read this or hang out there and have have there be no impact on me. That's like literally foolishness. That's just total nonsense. It's moving you in one direction or the other, and so maybe that means for some of you getting off social media. No, he didn't say that. Maybe it does because I don't know, how's that working for you? How is that moving you toward your vision? Is that filling your mind with truth? Is that wiring good thoughts and thought patterns? So we got to rewire. So the replacement principle, the rewire principle, and then the reframe principle. The reframe principle. This is a way of looking at the setbacks and adversities in life and it's just questioning it, interrogating it. And one of the big questions you can ask is this even a setback? Is this even a setback? I got an F on my quiz. Okay, good. This is a wake-up call. I didn't study. I need to study. I'm not a superhero. I need to work my butt off here. I need to work hard. I need to take this seriously. My girlfriend broke up with me. She called me a jerk. Okay, this isn't a setback. This is a blessing because maybe I am. Maybe I've been living the last 2 years of high school not really questioning who I'm becoming and not really, actively thinking about who I am and who I want to be. I didn't get picked for the team. Good. Maybe I need to learn to work in the off season. And this is exactly the spark I need to, start working out in the summer and start working on my skill work and playing pickup games, and getting better. Ask yourself, is this even a setback? It's a powerful way of reframing. Another way, a variant of the reframing principle is the pre-framing principle. So it's reframing only in advance before you even face the adversity or the setback. And for me, when I went to Ranger School in January of 2011, the U.S. Army Ranger School, it's a leadership school and it's a tactics school for infantry, for anybody in the Army. Anybody can go, literally. It absolutely sucks. It's really hard. It's really exhausting, but it's incredible training. For me, I pre-framed for months, and I basically decided in my head, I will not quit this school. The only way I'm leaving this school is if I die or if I am forced to go through serious injury or they kick me out. I'm not gonna make that job easier by quitting. I will not quit. And that pre-framing of I will not quit, because I knew adversity and setback was going to come, that pre-framing served me well on nights where I was really cold or really hungry and just wanted to go be with my newlywed wife that I had barely seen since I got married. And for you, I think, like a lot of us, you're going to learn a lot of new skills. You're going to be in a lot of new scenarios and situations this year and as you move into college or work or both or beyond. And so pre-framing for you can be, hey, I'm starting something new. I'm not going to be the freaking man the moment I do it. It's going to take some reps and I'm not going to be good at this right away. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to give up on it just because it doesn't come naturally. And then the principle number 4, so you had your replacement, your rewire, your reframe, rejoice. Craig Rochelle, the guy who came up with these, is a Christian. He's a pastor. And so rejoice principle for him is prayer to God and praise. But even if you're not a Christian or not religious, it's showing gratitude. It's showing gratitude. And it's learning to be content no matter the circumstances and practicing being thankful. So setback comes, adversity comes. What can I find to be thankful for? It's a powerful way of reframing in a lot of ways too, but it's the rejoice principle. And so there you have it, your 4 principles for winning the war in your mind, the 4 ways that we can exercise that veto authority over our thoughts. Replacement principle, rewire principle, reframe principle, and rejoice principle. Guys, that is it. Those are the 3 golden rules of overcoming setbacks and adversity and really fortifying yourself before you face setback and adversity. There's no reason you got to wait for it to come before you start kicking its butt. So I'm going to leave you with some questions. What is your why? Why are you on this earth, man? And what is your vision or your plan for the next 10 years? If you haven't thought about that, take some time and think about that. If you're a journaler, journal about it. If you process outwardly like me, grab a friend and talk about it. Number 2, imagine where you could be personally through leveling up between now and the end of the year. So whether that's between now and June, like the end of the school year, or between now and December of 2022, what can you change in the next 10 months or 3 months? How can you grow? What can you learn? How are you going to level up, man? Remember the physical fitness, the reading, the mentor. Who are you going to find to be a mentor, at church or at school, in your community? Number 3, what do you need to reframe? What lie or lies are you believing about yourself that just aren't true? What is the truth you need to replace with that lie? What is the truth you need to replace that lie with? That's all I got. I am so grateful for the opportunity to encourage you guys. If I can ever do anything for you, or if Intentional Leader can ever do anything for you, please reach out to us through Miss Laura Kime. And to Miss Kime, you're amazing. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the opportunity to participate with your students. You guys take care.